All right. I'm going to follow a long and glorious tradition of mid-afternoon speakers, which is we haven't yet had a mic malfunction, but we have had a couple of film malfunctions. So I thought I would prolong the afternoon session with the inevitable film malfunction, which will occur now. No, it's actually live. Do we have sound? I think I'll sit down.
For as long as there have been people, we have known how old you are can affect how healthy you are. But only now are we beginning to understand why, and how we can use that knowledge to give everyone a healthier old age. Because a better world for older people is a better world for everyone. The subject of aging is surrounded by myths that reflect our hopes and fears. Finding the truth is a challenge. This video won't tell you what to think, but it will tell you why scientists think the way they do, which is more important. The maximum number of years that the human body can survive hasn't changed much over history, but average life expectancy, the number of years that humans can on average expect to live, has dramatically increased. This means that there are more old people, so many more that by 2050 there will be more older people than children for the first time in human history. We've always known that as we age, certain changes occur. We get gray hair and wrinkled skin, for example. We also know that the older you get, the more likely you are to get sick. We tend to think of the effects of aging as separate from the diseases of aging, and of these diseases as separate from each other. But what if they were all part of the same process? We started to explore this idea when scientists first mutated single genes in mice, flies, and worms. These creatures lived much longer because whatever we had done made them much healthier, and the same processes are at work in us. These mechanisms and a few others work together to keep us healthy. Problems occur as they start to fail. But today, evidence shows that we can target these pathways with new drugs or old ones used in new ways. And new drug trials in humans are underway, which could help us treat these age-related conditions by targeting the biological processes of aging. It is a startling example of how basic science could act as a bridge to better medicine. Of course, this bridge won't get built without spending the right amount of money in the right place. We're not currently doing that. Around the world, many countries spend very little on this vital science that may extend our healthy years of life. Funding traditionally has gone toward treating the symptoms rather than researching the causes. We've seen how older people are especially vulnerable to new threats. And with the predicted increase in health costs, this is only going to become more of a critical issue in the future. We need to use our growing knowledge about the biology of aging to increase health span, the amount of time we spend healthy in old age. If we can do this, then old age needn't be a struggle. Even without new drugs, the knowledge we gain from biological research can be used to improve prevention strategies, diet, and exercise, things which many people can use and benefit from. But without a sustained effort into understanding how aging works, we can't make our extra years happier and healthier. But should we fear success? What would a world with increased health span look like? Economists have tried to predict this, and the results speak for themselves. Just a one-year increase in healthy life expectancy would save the U.S. alone $38 trillion. That can be spent on improving people's lives in other ways. Which is why we say, a better world for older people is a better world for everyone.
Thank you. Variants of that talk are available on YouTube, like almost everything is, and please feel free to download it and use it in your own activities. you could almost say that that film captures 40 years of what AFAR, the American Federation for Aging Research, has been about in terms of looking to raise funds as a charity to spend on understanding the fundamental mechanisms underlying ill health and incapacity in later life, and to use that knowledge for human benefit. And as our 40th anniversary came around, we thought that it was time for us as an organization to look forward to see what the future will bring, starting from where we are. And so the way in which we chose to do it could probably have only happened in a pandemic year, which is, of course, we did what every great forward-looking organization does and consumed a series of Zoom calls. The great advantage of this is, of course, that you're able to link people from all around the world easily and quickly together. And so what we were able to do was hold a series of think tanks conducted under what we call Chatham House rules, which is that everybody can speak freely, and their comments will not be attributed, though they may be disseminated. And we involved a wide number of experts, many different academic institutions, quite a number of private companies, quite a number of foundations. And what we wanted to do was get a sense from entrepreneurs, from people involved in translating aging research, and from the expert scientists themselves about what was needed next. And we decided we'd do 3 think tanks. The first one on the basic science, what's the new big thing going to be? The next one from entrepreneurs who often do not speak the same language as scientists. And one way of pointing this out is scientists would never get a grant funded if the referees said there is a 90% chance this grant won't work. In fact, most of us complain that we don't get it funded when 3 referees say there's a 90% chance it will work. And so therefore, the mindset is somewhat orthogonal to that of the typical venture capitalist. And so we felt it was handy to look at it from both sides of the mirror. And the last think tank that we held was on the translational research pipeline. This is the time when we have the opportunity to move from cell to society in the biology of aging. And we wanted to try and capture that moment and see what the problems were. And these really were our major recommendations that dropped out from textual analysis, recorded conversations. A key thing for the field is basically an indication for aging from any of the regulatory agencies, the F.D.A. for choice, or the Medicines Control Agency, with improved regulatory pathways. Better collaboration across borders between both the public and private research sectors and the public research sectors in different countries, and an increasing mixture of disciplines coming together to solve common problems in later life, breaking down silos in research. And so I'll just walk you very quickly through some of the key questions that we asked in each think tank. All of our participants were sent these out in advance, and you will have in your electronic documentation the opportunity to download the full version of this report, and you are the first people to see this. Even the participants themselves have not seen a full version yet. Okay, and we asked the scientists what the most important areas they saw, what was the next big thing, which strengths could we leverage between countries, and what were the barriers. And the things that come up are very interesting. Big data and AI are going to play a big role in the next 40 years, our experts thought. Epigenetics is an emergent new frontier that we need to look at. One of the most interesting things is the focus is shifting towards humans. My prediction, it's an interesting one for me because I started out working on humans, was told it was a dead end, so switched to working on flies. And now all the smart money is moving back to humans. So I was either 30 years too early or 30 years too late, I don't know which. And among humans, centenarians are one of the big interesting areas. If we want to know how to live long and healthy lives as human beings, it's probably a good idea to study human beings who are doing that already. There you go, that's your world-leading science for you. Okay, but it is a serious point, and it's not a trivial task to study centenarians in a way that is informative. All right, and we need to be able to arm researchers with the kind of detailed projections that I've just shown you on the economic benefits of increasing health span. And I'll try and give you an example of why this is important. Some years ago, the UK went on an austerity drive. We kind of seem to have the, fiscal equivalent of anorexia, where, we will go on a diet and then we'll go on a binge and then we'll go on another diet. And I think this has happened since about 1750 and shows no sign of changing anytime soon. But during one of our financial periods of sticking our fingers down our throat in the toilet, Treasury sent representatives to our government funding agencies and asked them how many new drugs they were going to develop with this year's budget. And what was clear was that Treasury had no idea how much a new drug cost. Okay, the answer would have been less than one if we hurry. And what was unfortunate was that nobody in the councils could give even that glib answer because they didn't know. And this is a problem if you lack the basic data to have a conversation outside your discipline. All right. We also need to foster international collaboration and produce networks of labs across continents so that we can connect the right people with the right resources. And we need to show people something that is so fundamental to us as gerontologists that we often forget that it's non-obvious to everybody else, which is that it is possible to improve later life health through targeting the fundamental mechanisms that keep you healthy early on. In other words, aging is attackable. All right. And when we went to the entrepreneurs, we asked them the kind of questions that a scientist might ask. What biological discoveries are most likely to interest investors in longevity, brackets, is it mine? What regulatory changes are needed? What are investors looking for? You could probably give this talk better than I do, actually. And what's the hardest thing? We asked some of our scientists who'd moved into the entrepreneurial space. What's the hardest thing you find about running a company? And unsurprisingly, the thing that came up again is investors would like to promote discoveries that might make a difference. Recognizing aging as an indication for therapeutics came up again as a key matter. And what needs to happen is there needs to be work on a common practical set of clinical pathways going forwards. One of the key things that came out through every workshop, but particularly strongly here, is to reiterate a point I made this morning. The targeting aging with metformin trial was seen as absolutely critical across every sector that we interviewed to unlock the next generation of therapeutics. It's critical for investors, it's critical for scientists, it's critical for clinicians. And alongside that, building good working relationships with the regulators so that we can actually move things forward faster than we've done before. And more meetings like this. And I personally think they need to be held, at least weekly, now that I've tried the miniature Bakewell tarts that they serve down there. All right. I dropped off diet specifically for this meeting. I hope you recognize the sacrifices I'm willing to make for the community. And finally, in translation, we asked very similar questions that were intended to intersect. What's the most important current areas of research that need to go into the clinic? What's most important in public health? What strengths do you have as a member of a national community that can leverage towards a global effort? What are the barriers? How do we get around them? And one of the big barriers is that we need to demonstrate that what has been seen in animal models can be translated into humans. That, I think, is starting to happen, but it's clearly something that's there. We need to attract more young scientists into the field. This is another area that came up very strongly. This is a growth area. It has been previously rather niche, and there are a shortage of people with sufficient skills, and I think it will grow rapidly, and we need to facilitate that. The other thing that was sounded, which I will do again, is it is possible, if you look uncritically at what's going on, to assume there are so many clinical trials successes assured. This is not the case. Everybody involved in this business needs to know that most trials fail most of the time. If this wasn't the case, the human race wouldn't only have 1,200 medicines after 600 years of recorded trying. All right? But just because most of these trials fail doesn't matter, because the important thing is a few of them will succeed, and the ones that succeed will repay all the losses of the ones that failed. But we need to go forward, hopefully, but realistically. All right? And one of the ways in which we thought this would be most useful would be to try and create one or more central clearinghouses to share research worldwide and provide some regulatory support. I think Longevity Tech is doing incredible work in this area in trying to deal with these things. And we need to overcome barriers to international collaboration, which, as some of my colleagues will know, is a matter of enduring the endless networking meeting at the Houses of Parliament with the clammy handshake and the slightly turned up sandwich as you make the same case 40 or 50 different times to 40 or 50 different people. And 39 times out of 40, nothing happens. And on the 40th occasion, you're able to get a transatlantic funding alliance out of it. That was my experience of this. And I was quite happy to have the 39 stale sandwiches for that one that worked. And we need to be moving the most promising interventions into early phase human clinical trials quickly, whether they're tissue-based like Digenesis, drug-based like TAME, or based on other areas that we've heard today. And so I actually set myself out a goal of clawing us back some of the time that we've lost, because I'm conscious there's a reception with loads and loads of Prosecco. Or at least I hope there's loads and loads. Is there loads and loads of Prosecco? Oh, sorry, there's no Prosecco, in which case I'll stretch this out for another 12 minutes. All right. And so what I thought I would do, therefore, is just end it there. Please download the report. Please share it with your friends. If you have any questions, I'm around all evening or until the wine is done. Okay. Thank you very much. I'll hand over to Neil.